You're listening to ChooseFI Radio. The blueprint to financial independence lives here. If you're looking to unlock the secrets to financial independence and early retirement, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and join a community of like-minded people who are getting off the hamster wheel and taking control of their lives in the pursuit of financial independence. ChooseFI, your home for financial independence online. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on our first ever ChooseFI radio podcast. My name is Jonathan Mendonsa, and I'm the founder of ChooseFI.com. With me today is my co-founder and co-host, Brad Barrett. Welcome, Brad.
Thanks, Jonathan. Very excited to be here. This is wonderful.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Well, let me first, introduce Brad to y'all, our audience. Brad is a financially independent, retired early veteran. He has 2 successful businesses under his belt. He's been a guide and a mentor for me over the last 6 months. He's also an amazing co-host, as you're about to find out. Before we get started, let's just talk a little bit about this particular podcast and our community at ChooseFI.com.
So our goals are really twofold here with the website, the podcast, the community. It's really to take the entire financial independence retire early community, or the FIRE community, and build a gathering place to bring everyone together. There are so many of these separate silos. There's the real estate community, there's the bloggers, the minimalists, people who focus on efficiency, investors, entrepreneurs, travel hackers. And we want to create this place to bring those separate tribes together. So for those of you who are in this space, we want to help you reach a new audience with your message. We want this podcast to be the source for the FIRE community. And if you're just discovering this podcast for the first time, maybe you're discovering FIRE for the first time. Maybe you saw an article about Mr. Money Mustache somewhere and it led you down the rabbit hole and you found us. We want to teach you what financial independence is all about. And most importantly, we want to convince you that what society has told you is the American dream. That really sucks, frankly. And you're going to wake up 20 years from now, you're going to be broke just like everybody else if you follow that American dream. But if you can just make a couple of small changes and follow what this community is doing, you can wrest control of your life. You can get freedom. You can reach financial independence. You're not going to be beholden to corporate America, the government, whatever else is holding you back. You are going to have the control in your life. And honestly, it's pretty easy. It's not a short process, but it's an easy one. And once you're there, it is truly magical. It's transformative.
What I love about what you just said is I know for a fact that that is actually what you did. And you didn't have it figured out right away. I mean, there were a lot of stumbling blocks that you ran into. You had some hiccups, but you're here now. You've done it. And if I were going to introduce myself and talk about kind of how I got here, it's kind of the opposite of that. I was exposed to this community probably from the get-go. I was one of those Dave Ramsey guys that would just listen to it every day. And I would hear about just the horrors of debt and how debt was ruining people's lives. But at the same time, I was planning on going to pharmacy school and taking on 6 figures of student loan debt. And so now, this is literally 14 years later, and I am a pharmacist and I've gotten that debt and I've paid it off. And I'm wondering, 14 years later, for me just now to have gotten my degree, gotten my job, gotten all that student loan debt, and now paid all that debt off, it feels like a hamster wheel. It feels like, what was the point? Was that the most efficient path to get here? And I think if you take that one aspect, which is that hating debt, and you combine it with all these other skills that you could learn, you can just bypass all that. It's just not necessary. And so we're going to explore this theory of what is this most efficient path? What is this road less traveled? What are the skills that you do not need a doctorate in order to learn, but you can monetize and you can provide an income for you and your family for life? And I think some people call it the laptop lifestyle. It's possible, it's doable. And I think frankly, it's just, you need to be exposed to it because you're not going to hear about this stuff in school. You're not going to get an education in this in middle school. Nobody is going to teach you this because they don't know that. They've bought into the American dream, which is debt and consumerism for 40 years, followed by social insecurity.
Yeah, and it's in everyone's best interest to keep you on that hamster wheel. That's the interesting thing. But it's not in our interest and it's not in your interest. We want to teach you how to get there. And I think that's, as Jonathan alluded to, that's the second main purpose of this site and what we're doing here is to really take all these ideas and battle test them. Okay? I mean, you can read 100 different blogs and you're going to find thousands of different ideas. But how do you cut through that noise? it's very difficult. And
That's super cool. I love the idea of battle testing something. Just throw it in the ring and see what happens.
Yeah, and just find out for real. And what we're going to do is we're going to put our money where our mouths are, right? We're going to take our own money. We're going to invest in all sorts of different things. And we're going to experiment. And honestly, we're going to fall flat on our face in some things, and we're going to succeed wildly in others. But we're going to document every single step of the way so you can see, hey, does this make sense for me? Hey, could I maybe do this a little better than Brad and Jonathan did? Or, maybe can I help the community? And maybe you'll be a guest on the podcast 6 months from now or 2 years from now. But we're going to test everything and try to find out what makes this easier. What are the real steps that you can take to go from nothing, from the regular corporate drone to being financially independent in X number of years. We're not going to promise you it's 5. We're not going to promise you it's 7, but we can promise you for certain, if you follow this path, you are going to be wealthy and you are going to retire decades earlier than most people. And now retirement doesn't mean sitting on a beach sipping pina coladas with little umbrellas in them, right? Like that's what people, you think Florida, you think old people. That's not what we're going for here. We're not looking for lives of leisure and, doing nothing productive. It's financial independence. That's the key. It's not retiring in the traditional, let's go play golf sense. It's financial independence. It's having control over your life. That is the key.
Dan Miller has a book and a popular podcast series. And it's 48 days to the work you love. And I just think financial independence is finding the work you love and doing that. It's finding something that you get excited about and finding a way to monetize it and then scale it so you don't have to deal with it anymore and it continues to pay you and you do what you want to. You work because you want to, not because you have to. You're not working so that you can afford your $40 a month couch payment that you got from, whatever furniture warehouse because they were giving you a 0% interest for 6 months. You're not financing your life. Instead, you're earning passive income from 8 to 20 different income streams because your mind has turned into this creative machine that has found ways to produce money while you sleep.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And, if you could, maybe we'll have my wife on a future podcast. She would almost echo exactly what Jonathan just said, which is my mind is constantly working. I'm constantly coming up with new random ideas for businesses. And, most of them will never come to fruition. But you put all this information together from all these various sources, and you never know what ideas come to you that could be the next $1 million idea or $1 billion idea, frankly. It's, like Jonathan said, it's creating these passive income streams where your passive income doesn't mean no work necessarily. It means put the work in up front and figure things out, test it, and come up with a plan that works. And then, if you can make that so that you can find people to work for you and actually go through all those standard operating procedures and just run the business, then that's wonderful, right? That's the dream. And then you can replicate that. It's a process that you can replicate. And, I've seen that in my own business. We're going to talk in a future episode about, we'll each interview each other. So you'll hear about my website. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time with that now, but I've built multiple websites that have become fairly successful. So I've done this myself. 3 years ago, I was a tax manager at a big corporation and sitting in an office from 8:30 to 5 every single day, doing the same stuff over and over again. And I just started learning. It was a quest just really to learn something new, to expand my brain, to expand my horizons, and just see what happened. There was no way that I could have predicted 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever it may have been that I started Richmond Savers originally, that I'd be sitting here with Jonathan recording this podcast 24 months into my early retirement, I guess you'd call it, where I quit my job really almost 24 months ago at this point. It was January of 2014.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. And yeah, it's just amazing what it's been able to do for my life. Having control over your life, we can't repeat that enough. You'll hear me say it probably hundreds of times over the next X number of podcasts, but the control you have over your life is just priceless. Just something simple, right? This is going to sound trivial, but I have young daughters. They're growing up real fast. My oldest is already 8. She's not going to be a little girl for long. And we have the summers together. This past summer was one of those times where we know we're going to look back on that 50 years from now and say, that was the best time of our lives. Because we spent essentially 90 days going to the pool every single day during the afternoon for 3 hours and just playing and having fun as a family. We went to San Francisco and the Bay Area for 10 days and just had a wonderful time going to Yosemite and the redwoods and seeing the cities and whatnot. And it was remarkable. And I have that flexibility because I spent thousands of hours learning about this stuff. But man, if you are someone who has dedication and can sit there and just learn new things, listen to podcasts. We can give you a list of our favorite podcasts. I mean, I've picked up more life hacks and business hacks from the podcasts I listen to on a weekly basis than I can even count. And I don't remember every single one of these things, but they all kind of synthesize in my brain in this kind of weird way.
It does. It's amazing how the ideas come together and you start to see the bigger picture. We're going to have two different sets of people that are going to be listening to this. There's going to be our friends in the podcast financial independence space that are going to be listening to this, and they're going to be identifying with a lot of what Brad has just said. I mean, that is exactly how they think. That is the process that they've replicated. That is their life. They're sharing that. And then there's going to be people looking at it from the outside in who are finding us maybe for the first time on Stitcher or iTunes, and they're going to be thinking to themselves, well, I just don't have any ideas to make money. I don't even know how you would even start with that. And you're thinking to yourself, well, what if you just told me how I could make money, and then I could do that? Just give me an example of 2 or 3 things I could do to make this money. And we can give you examples. I mean, there will be examples on our website, ChooseFI.com. Go to our fishbowl experiment page. You can certainly see some of the things that we have done. But the point is, there are so many different ways that you can do it. You don't have to find the perfect one. You don't have to find the only one that will work for you. You just have to find a one. And to get there, to get to the point where the wheels start to come off the bus and you start to have these creative ideas, you have to start thinking in a certain way. You have to start learning new skills. You need to have someone model it for you. And if all you're watching is Grey's Anatomy reruns, you're not going to get there. You're just not. And so, what are you doing with your free time? Are you taking the time to listen to this podcast and learn 5 or 6 new skills that at some point, I guarantee you will use it and it will earn you money? Or are you just watching a rerun? There's no benefit, and you only have a certain amount of time. Every single second that ticks on the clock is a second that you won't get back, and it's getting you to 5 years down the road. And right now, you could make a choice to start learning 1, 2, 3, 100 new skills that you can monetize for the rest of your life. And I can tell you that right now, as of right now, we're recording this at the end of 2016. I have, in the past 3 months, I have learned no less than 150 new skills. I promise you, or more. And every single time I learn something new, I start to be able to put it into this picture of how I'm going to be able to monetize this down the road and provide an income for myself and my family. And it's exciting. It's way more interesting than watching the newest television show, and I'm not hating on TV. I love TV, but there's a reason that I'm spending the time doing this, and it's not because I'm just a tech nerd.
Yeah, Jonathan hit it on the head there beyond belief. And what he just said, rewind this and listen to it again. This is about putting together a toolkit that will help you succeed in life. It's nothing less than that. And you cannot point to every single thing that you're going to learn as directly related to, I'm going to make money off this. But I can guarantee you, when you start putting these skills together, it's going to create magical things. I mean, your brain just makes these connections. And you don't have to be world class at this. This is kind of taken from Scott Adams, who is a really brilliant thinker. He's actually the guy who pens the Dilbert comic, which sounds a little odd, but I'd highly recommend you check out his blog. He's just a thinker on a different level. And you don't have to be world-class at anything, but when you are in the top 10% or 20% even of a lot of things, you're putting together ideas that other people just aren't seeing because they're so focused on being in the top 1% of whatever their field is. Or frankly, many people are just focus on being mediocre and getting through life, unfortunately. But if people who are successful, they take these random ideas and put together this toolbox. Just to talk about Jonathan for a minute, I have been so blown away by his zeal and fervor to learn new things. I've never seen anything like it. And it's a little intimidating, even though I guess I'm quote unquote successful with websites and whatnot. And there have been some things that I've been able to help him with and guide him with. But man, I've never seen a person just dive into a project like this. It's amazing. And I mean, you guys are going to learn so much from him. It's going to be remarkable. So you're really in good hands here with ChooseFI. I think we've got a lot of really fun things planned. Jonathan mentioned we have an experiment list that we have, it's the end of 2016 now that, we have mapped out for 2017. But I mean, that's just a fraction of what we're going to do and what we hope to do. But we need your input, right? That's what's going to make this community grow. What experiments do you want to see us make? What would be beneficial for the community? And where should we go from here? We have ideas, but we are nothing without you guys. So I'd love for you to send us an email, rate this podcast, give us some ideas.
Absolutely. And also on our website, on the right-hand side, there'll be an option for you can leave us some voicemail feedback. And so if you have, a question that you want answered, you can leave us that information, and we will actually play it on our show and do our best to give you, our opinion on that particular topic. So we hope you take advantage of that. Well, thank you so much. This has been the first episode of the ChooseFI radio podcast. Thank you, Brad, for doing this with me.
Yeah, this is amazing. I had a blast. Can't wait for more.
And we thank y'all for listening. Please leave us a review on iTunes and share this with your friends. This is not something that you want to keep for yourself. This is something you want to share with your family. You want to share with your relatives. You want to share with everybody, because this has life-changing potential. And it's at no cost to anybody. There's no downside to somebody learning about this stuff. You want everybody in your social circle to be successful, and you can only help them by giving them access to this information and this different perspective, this different way of looking at things. Thank you so much for choosing FI. We'll see you next time.